Hey there, welcome to Rows. In this video, we'll be looking at how you could reconcile your invoices to the bank transactions. Let's dive right in. So the first thing I'm going to do is import our invoices onto a Rows spreadsheet. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on the import files option here, select or drop files to import. You can drag and drop the invoice PDFs here, or just click on the button here. It takes you to the folder. I'm going to go to the invoices folder and just select all and hit open. And you have the files shown here, and I'm going to choose the folder to be the demo one. That's fine. And I want all the data to be merged in a single table, so that's okay also. And as part of the instructions, I'm going to ask the AI to extract only the invoice date, supplier name, total amount, and let's say due date. You can add more variables here like the VAT percentage and so on, but for now, that's all I need. So I'm going to say that and hit import. Give it a couple seconds for the Rows Vision import to do its magic. The time might vary depending on how many pages you may have per file and the number of files that you're uploading. So now I'm going to go ahead and open this spreadsheet here, and there we have it. We have a column with the name of the file that we imported, along with the supplier name, the invoice date, the total amount, as well as the due date. I'm going to rename this as Reconciliation. Next, let's go ahead and import our bank transactions from the bank accounts integration. For that, I'm going to go ahead and click on the data button here, click on the bank accounts integration there, click on get transactions from the bank account, and then from this drop down, you can go ahead and select the bank of your choice. In case this is the first time you're connecting to the bank account, you'll be shown a yellow button to connect a bank account, and it'll follow a similar flow like so. So you'll have a pop-up here to connect bank accounts. You can then select the country of your bank, and then from there, hit on connect. You'll be connected to our bank accounts transaction provider. That's Plaid. In this case, go ahead and hit continue. And from here, you can search for your bank specifically. For example, if you want to connect to Santander, you can just search that. And from there, go ahead and click this account, and it'll provide you with the instructions to either enter credentials or go to your bank app and authorize the login attempt. For now, I'm going to go ahead and close this since the bank account in our case is already connected. I'm going to close this pop-up as well. And from the connection dropdown, you'll notice that there are multiple banks that are connected. So you can select multiple banks from which you can import transactions all inside a single table. In my case, I just need it from one bank, and the same logic applies to the accounts dropdown as well. A single bank may have multiple accounts or credit cards associated with it. So you can select the number of accounts from which you want to import the transaction. In our case, that will be the account 9000. So I'm going to select that. And then you can select the date range of the transactions as well. In my case, I'm going to select like last month, and let's import data for the last 3 months. And I also want the data from the current month too. So I'm going to mark that particular parameter as true. And you also have this parameter to flip signs of your transactions. By default, Plaid provides with the income to be in negative values and the expenses in positive. So you have this option to flip that where the income is in positive instead and the expenses in negative. So by default, it is set to yes, but you can change that to no if needed. I'm going to leave the default as is and then click create data table. Give it a couple of seconds for the bank accounts integration to pull in all the transactions, and you should have a data table that looks like so. So you have like the column for date, an amount column, currency, the description, as well as a category provided by Plaid. This may or may not be accurate. And so for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and delete this particular column here so we can create our own column for our categorization. It also has a column for bank as well as the account. The next thing you can do is set up an automation such that the transaction table is automatically updated every single day at a particular time of your choice. You can set a custom value if needed as well. So let's say every day at 0700, right? For instance, also please ensure you set the right time zone because the automation would run based on the time zone that's set here. It would be ideal to leave the data refresh mode as is since we've already set it up to log the data based on the date, amount, and description. Next, let's have the AI categorize our transactions. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and click on the AI Analyst button here and then ask it to classify positive transactions as income and negative transactions under travel, food, software, payroll, marketing, and other. That's it. Enter. Give it a couple seconds for the analyst to do its magic. So in this case, it's created a category column here, and you'll notice that it's using this nice little function where if the transaction is greater than 0, it's classifying that as income already, and otherwise it's using our classify AI function and using the description to categorize it to the values that we have described here, which is great. So now you have some sense of the category generated by AI. Well, the common things that we get asked is to map suppliers to the transactions as well. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. For that, I'm going to go ahead and import a list of our suppliers as CSV. To do that, I'm going to click on this drop down here, go to import file, and then select or drop files here. In this case, I'm choosing the suppliers CSV. In my case, I'm going to choose the separator type as tab and then click import. Give it another second, and there you have a list of suppliers here. I'm going to move this right next to our transactions table. Next, I'm going to ask the analyst to map suppliers to transactions in the bank accounts table and hit enter. Again, give it a couple of seconds for it to understand the prompt there. And then by the end, we should see a column with a list of suppliers inside the bank accounts table as well. There we go. The analyst created the supplier column here, and you will notice that it's using our FLOOKUP function, which is for fuzzy lookup, and that way it can match the data that you see inside this description. So in this case, you have like a PayPal transaction, but it's for booking.com, and the FLOOKUP function has accurately looked up booking.com as a supplier for this. It has done the same thing for a bunch of other transactions here as well. Great. Now look at how we can reconcile the bank accounts with the invoices data that we have here. For this, I have a pre-prepared prompt already, which I'm going to paste here and hit enter. While the analyst does its thing, let's go through the prompt in a little bit more detail. So I'm asking the analyst to reconcile transactions from bank accounts table with invoices from the unified invoices table, right? So, and I've given it a list of priorities, which describes how I want the matching of the invoices and the transactions to look like, which entails using the suppliers as a priority match key. And in cases that we don't have suppliers, then look at the description to see if we can match it to the suppliers from the invoices table. And also look at the amounts of the transactions as well as invoices have a little bit of a tolerance because of fees, forex values, and so on. And of course, look at the date proximity as well, because sometimes the transactions and invoices don't always happen on the same day. I'm also specifying the exact output format I want in the data table, and I'm also providing it with some notes and some remarks in terms of what the task entails. The key here is to be as specific as possible, as the more context we can provide the AI, the better results we can expect from it. Once we do that, the analyst provides us with a little bit of a goal and a plan of action, which is already great because this helps us see that the analyst understands what the task at hand is. This may take 2 to 3 minutes, maybe more, depending on the data set that you may have and the amount of time the AI takes to understand what needs to be done. Well, the analyst has something cooking already, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll up a little bit, and there's a bank invoice reconciliation table that it created. And we'll already see that it's matched roughly 9 of these invoices to the transactions. In case you're curious about the source of this data table, you can always click on this icon here, and you'll notice that this is a Python data table. Click that, and you'll notice that this is the Python script that it's using to generate this reconciliation table. Now, I don't know how to edit Python, so in case you do, feel free to go through the script and modify whatever's needed. I'm going to leave it as is and go back to the analyst here. We'll notice that for the most part, the reconciliation looks okay. So here you have the content square in the bank description, and the file name here, or more specifically, the invoice supplier, which is generated by AI, is also content square. The same is true for the rest of these transactions here as well. So there's this Plaid transaction, which is the same as the invoice supplier here. One's from Sage, Plaid again. There's Kaya, and that's the same for the invoice supplier here. We can do a lot more with the analyst here. For instance, I'm a little curious as to what this match confidence means. And to know more, I'm going to go to the analyst and ask it exactly that. What does match confidence score mean here? What are you using to determine that? And hit enter. Give it a couple of seconds, and here's an explanation from the analyst. And in case you feel the algorithm could do more, feel free to tell that to the analyst directly so that it can modify the Python script and by extension the entire data table. We can also now create summaries out of this data. For instance, looking at the bank accounts table, if you wish to have a summary of the expenses by supplier, And by month, you can just ask the analyst to do that. For instance, in this case, I'm going to ask the analyst to summarize only the expenses where the amount is negative by supplier and break them up by month name. And hit enter. Give it a couple of seconds for the analyst to do its magic again, and it should create a column for the month in the bank accounts table, and then just create a pivot table with the suppliers broken down by month. There we go. Next, I'm going to ask the analyst to remove the totals from the summary table and exclude the expenses where there's no supplier map. Right? This way, we'll have a little bit more cleaner table to work with. That's a much cleaner and simpler table to look at. You can also create advanced visualization thanks to Python as well as our analyst. So in this case, I'm going to ask the analyst to create a heat map chart highlighting high versus low spending for each supplier by month. And hit enter. Give it a couple more seconds for the analyst to do its thing. And there we have it. There's an expenses heat map by supplier and month. By this, we can say that we've been spending a lot on OpenAI as well as Data Co and the Customer IO subscription as well. This is just an example, but you can create a variety of charts and visualization using rows. I hope this video is helpful, and thanks for watching.